Hi, and welcome to 3 Things in 3 Minutes. I'm Nersi. Today we are going to be talking about Roots, which is from Leader Games, and it plays with the base game 2 to 4 players, with the expansion 1 to 6 players. It does include a cooperative and solo variant, and its build is taking 60 to 90 minutes, although realistically, you can expect maybe 2 hours or more on your first few playthroughs, and we'll come back to that in a bit. But this game is a asymmetric, very asymmetric area control game where you're woodland creatures and you're battling over a forest. And it is largely area control, but actually some of the factions are trying to complete quests, and a lot of them are trying to complete objectives. So it actually, what you're trying to do to actually take over this forest varies quite a bit. And that might remind you a little bit of the other big game from Leader Games, which is Vast. This is actually designed by Cole Worley instead of Patrick Leader, but it has some similarities, which we'll come back to in a bit. Things I like about the game, one of the things you will notice right away is that there's some artwork by Kyle Ferris, who also did the artwork for Vast. It is lovely. It looks like a great, wonderful storybook, and has a lot of interesting aspects and humor to it, and gives it really that storybook feel. And the asymmetry is really asymmetric, and if you like asymmetric games where people are trying to do different things, this game has that in spades. And even within one faction, there can be variable setup, and how you play that faction might actually change throughout the game. And each individual faction has a subset of rules which isn't too hard, and that way it's actually probably a little bit easier than Vast to wrap your brain around each of the factions. And there are summary cards for the other factions that tell you how that faction plays, and essentially gives you advice on how to beat that faction. A few things to consider about this game. The game is complex. It does come with a tutorial which walks you through the first 2 turns. It's okay. It actually doesn't really tell you enough about the game. So if you're going to use a tutorial, that's probably not enough, and you're going to want to read the rule book as you are playing the tutorial or beforehand. And the asymmetry and the complexity can be really hard to figure out, and especially when you're trying to figure out what other players are doing until you are aware of what each faction can do. It can be really frustrating to know, what am I supposed to do? What are they trying to do? How do I advance myself and stop them? And in some ways that reminds me of Vast, or even to some extent some of the coin games from GMT have that similar aspect to them. And so some of the factions are also just inherently tougher to grasp, but they do warn you about this. So each faction on the back tells you its complexity and playstyle, kind of like Spirit Island does with the spirits. So in summary, it is a really interesting, massively asymmetric game where each faction plays distinctly with some really cute, wonderful storybook art. Just make sure you spend a lot of time trying to learn it. Thanks for watching. Please comment and subscribe.